All right, so I got a story here for you guys that is really just giving us yet another perspective in terms of how ridiculous and rapacious our global capitalist system actually is. And listen, before we get into this actual specific story, understand the little bit of context that we have seen over the course of the pandemic. I really do think that COVID has exposed the flaws within this system at pretty much as surface level as you could possibly ask for, okay? We have seen the K-shaped recovery of this economy, which is not an accident. It is a prime function of the capitalist system that whenever it crashes in a way that it did under the pandemic, or whether it was in the 2008 financial crash, or any time basically that the capitalist system implodes, all of the consequences are going to be heavily weighing down on working class people, not just here in the United States, but also down the supply chain, especially down the supply chain in developing countries, while billionaires and the people, the capitalist owners who sit on top of this system, walk out the back door with billions and billions, and in many cases even trillions of dollars, as we have seen over the course of this pandemic. So this is the idea of disaster capitalism, okay? It's not an accident that they are expanding their wealth, their power, and control in times like this while working people are getting absolutely eviscerated. And this story really just gives you a perspective in terms of how grotesque this amount of wealth accumulation really is and what that wealth could be doing on the global stage. So here from CNN Business, 2%, just 2% of Elon Musk's wealth could solve world hunger, says director of UN Food Scarcity Organization. 2% of Elon Musk, one guy's wealth, could solve world hunger, okay? These are the types of issues that, like, growing up in school, we are told are these big, broad, complicated, impossible to solve problems that we have in the world that are going to require some sort of an upheaval of society to potentially remedy the situation. And here, we're learning that it really would not even take that much, okay? And I'm not pretending as if logistically it wouldn't be a difficult problem to actually, get direct food resources towards people in conflict zones that are suffering, especially from hunger. But, I mean, this is not a lot of money that we're talking about right now, especially relative to the amount of money that billionaires have been amassing over the course of the pandemic. So here's some of the details. So Abu Dhabi, UAE, CNN Business, which this is a massive conflict of interest for CNN, but that's for another time. A small group of ultra wealthy individuals could help solve world hunger with just a fraction of their net worth, says the director of the United Nations World Food Program. Billionaires need to, quote, step up now on a one-time basis, said David Beasley in an interview on CNN's Connect the World that aired Tuesday, citing specifically the world's two richest men, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, quote, $6 billion to help 42 million people that are literally going to die if we don't reach them. It's not complicated, okay? And $6 billion to save 42 million lives? How is this even a question? How is this even something that needs to be debated? But of course, it does need to be debated only under a capitalist system. But they continue here saying that Tesla chief executive Musk has a net worth of nearly $289 billion. I mean, I literally feel like it was just a couple weeks ago that we were talking about Jeff Bezos being the first guy to become worth over $200 billion. And here's Elon Musk racing straight towards $300 billion. But according to Bloomberg, meaning that Beasley is asking for a donation of just 2% of his fortune, and the net worth of U.S. billionaires has almost doubled since the pandemic began, standing at $5.04 trillion in October, according to the Progressive Group's Institute for Policy Studies and Americans for Tax Fairness. Okay, so 2% of a donation from Elon Musk's fortune, okay? And so before I have angry capitalists in my comment section telling me, oh, well, that's not actually concrete wealth that's held up in the stock market. Yeah, I get it. I know. The fact of the matter is, the reality is, the only way that somebody becomes a billionaire under a capitalist system is through exploitation, okay? It doesn't matter if his wealth is in concrete assets or whether it's in the stock market, okay? It doesn't matter. The reality is, at the ground level, that wealth, whether it's in a concrete way in the profits that the company is actually producing, or if it's in a more abstract way with the expanding potential growth of the stock value of that company, either way, at the ground level, it's built on the exploitation, the extraction of surplus value from the workers who are actually producing the value for the company. And so the only way that you earn $1 billion, let alone $300 billion, is not by earning it, it's by stealing it. It is by lifting it off the backs of the people who are actually doing the work to provide value for your company. And so that's exactly how people become billionaires. And so it's not even as if we should be having to beg him or ask him even for a donation to solve world hunger. If we actually want to do this, we could just do it. And it shouldn't be a 2% tax on billionaire wealth. It should be a 99% tax on billionaire wealth. I am of the firm position that every single billionaire is a policy failure. That means they are simply stealing to the tunes of billions of dollars. And we saw from that Rand Corporation study that came out that over the last couple of decades, I think it was since the 80s, that the working class has basically had over $50 trillion stolen from them by the top 1%. Okay, so this is what a capitalist system looks like when it's actually functioning. Okay, this is what it looks like. You got guys that are worth nearly over a $250 billion, while the rest of the world, millions of people, tens of millions of people, are forced to starve because of it. So they continue saying that a perfect storm of several crises, such as climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic, mean that many nations are knocking on famine's door, Beasley said, and half the population of Afghanistan, nearly 23 million people, face acute hunger crisis. According to the WFP report released Monday, rampant unemployment and a liquidity crisis means the country is teetering on the edge of a humanitarian crisis, and 3.2 million children under the age of 5 are at risk, the report concluded. And a series of new reports from the Biden administration issued a stark warning last week that the effects of climate change will be wide-reaching and will pose problems for every government. Okay, ironic considering that Joe Biden is literally right now allowing a millionaire coal baron named Joe Manchin to completely gut all of the climate change portions from this current infrastructure bill that is being negotiated. Okay, so Joe Biden coming out again, virtue signaling, pretending like he believes and cares about addressing climate change. Meanwhile, on the actual substance, he is completely absent from the fight to actually address climate change. And again, in a broader way, okay, first of all, just to give you another piece of context here, they say 2% of his wealth, and I don't even know if that takes into account that yesterday Elon Musk's wealth went up by $36 billion in one day. In one day, this dude became worth $36 billion more. So, I'm not going to do the math quickly in my head here, but that is a tiny fraction that we are asking for with $6 billion to save 42 million lives potentially from dying of hunger. And Elon Musk could cover this multiple times over. I guess I could do that math in my head. It is 6 times 6. So 6 times, basically. Elon Musk in one day earned 6 times more than what it would actually cost to save those 42 million lives that we are talking about. And again, it's $6 billion that we're talking about here. So not only could Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or any number of billionaires actually do this, but my question really beyond that is, yes, we should be taxing billionaires at 100%. I don't believe there should be any billionaires under a functioning economic system, especially as we have hundreds of thousands of people sleeping out on the streets. People can't afford healthcare, basic life necessities. That should be a basic. But in addition to that, why can the U.S. government not afford $6 billion? This is coming literally a week or so after the Senate defense appropriations bill gave the Pentagon $10 billion more than they asked for. So we can afford to pull $10 billion straight out of our ass and hand it to Pentagon defense contractors, but we can't afford $6 billion to save literally tens of millions of people from dying of hunger. Okay, that's the situation that we have right now. Our capitalist system, whether it is in the military-industrial complex, whether it is among the billionaire class with Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, it doesn't matter. The capitalist system prioritizes wealth accumulation, capital, and power more than it actually prioritizes humans and human beings and their lives and their necessities. Okay, that's the situation that we have right now. Just another update on our global capitalist system. It is completely unsustainable and ridiculous that we allow this to continue happening.